What's up, guys? So I thought I would do sort of a representation between, like just some random woodwork like I've been doing with the previous videos on this blade. But I thought, how about introducing something that can categorize a lot of regular profiled blades, right? So this is, I think a lot of Americans would call this a Bowie knife, and I agree with them. And it's been heavily inspired by watching a lot of antique Bowie knife videos, and it's got a steel framed rat tail handle. Now I like to rivet all my scales there. It's got these are moose antlers from a hunting trip. Yeah, and then all of that is fitted into this ring. So this you can see on my Instagram page. So that's a ring, not a spacer. And all these components and the rat tail tang, they're all interconnected here under this ring. We got this bronze a little spacer, but it's a guard. And then this is the rivet lock. So it might look a little funny, but it works super well, and I hang it under my armpit like this, so I can pull it from under my jacket out into a dagger grip. Because actually this is a pretty small blade, and it's kind of like a dagger. Once you play with it for a while, you realize it's actually, in many ways, it's basically a dagger. Yeah, super awesome blade, and we're going to compare it against, of course, the convex HMKarambit, which is the main selling point. And one more thing I wanted to put into the play is something like a regular something that categorizes like a regular military blade. And I brought this out because the edge profile here was sort of they're pretty close, you see, in length. And they're pretty close in geometry. So this one's slightly different because, well, I've sharpened it like a katana. It's got a micro bevel. It's got a lot of care. The blade on this knife is actually many years old. The handle and the guard is new, but it's done a lot of work. So, but the profile on this blade is inspired, on the edge, is inspired by modern military style blades. So this edge profile, right, and the length as well. So it's quite a big knife. But I think it's a good representation for your average utility blade, and it's got a clip point too. So it's and it's also it weighs 546 grams. Oops. And then this one weighs 383 grams. So there's quite a big weight difference between these two, although I must admit this one feels a lot lighter than this one in my hand. So the balance on this blade is like right there, right? So when we're talking about it, when I say it's a dagger, there's a lot of reasons why it is a dagger. And I kind of think of this as like a beefed up dagger ranch knife, but I use it for skinning, gutting, all the work on the sheep. I take it with me everywhere on the ranch, my ranch knife. So, all right, it's a good medium. This cutting block is fudged. So let's start off first by just chopping. And mind you, this is also a skeletonized handle, right? So we're doing it. I think it's a pretty good comparison. And that Bowie knife there, that would be our control group. That's what I meant to say. It's our control group. So that's a good quick, let's go, kind of chop there. Maybe we quickly introduce this one. I think a lot of people have this knife, and then the point of this blade as well is that it's an upgrade to your existing kind of military style knife. So I've seen people, you can get some work done. It's actually a pretty bloody good knife, albeit all of that is torn. It's extremely not very clean, but overall extremely impressive either way, for the price, for the quality, for everything you're getting, and it's extremely lightweight, so very, very decent knife to have in the collection. And then let's go over to our custom took. I have to say this knife performs like a much bigger knife. I've made some machetes that are twice as long that don't actually chop as good as this one. So I think this is a very good representation. So I'm kind of just doing like carving style, you know. So that was my personal everyday carry Bowie ranch blade. Hunter, butcher, cooking knife that I use for literally everything. Cooking, spreading butter, cutting brie. I insist on using it for everything, basically. But I like to also have moments in my life where I put it down, I'm forced to use something else. And that's what this is for now. And then, of course, the clip point. I always have this on me anyway. So, let's see. Okay, so now we got our chopper here. Pretty amazing. It has a huge bite, a massive bite. You guys saw this performs very well for a dagger in terms of chopping wood, right? This is, you know, one step away from being like a Bowie that's really intended for chopping, but it still does the work really, really well. And of course, when it comes to whittling wood, so just quick whittle here. Woo. Can't really see anything with the knife in the way, huh? I use the clip point to whittle wood with this knife. So, pretty simple. The clip point is extremely useful, but I think our control here is going to be a very good representation. So, you know, you make up your mind there. I think this, you know, it's much easier to do aggressive chopping with it. It's got a really big bite. This one, of course, is super elegant, and it's a control for and a measure for, you know, our average knife, but a high quality average knife, right? So I don't want to mess around with this nice blade too much. I don't want to, and yeah, so, you know, you can see there for yourself that there is quite a lot of nice chopping ability. You can abuse this blade. You know, you don't have to, it's kind of like, in a way, it's kind of like a shank, but a super nice shank. You know, you don't have to, you can have this under your shirt, and, you know, if you lose it or whatever, it's not that big a deal compared to if you lose something that you really like or something. And then, of course, when you compare the two in terms of size and weight, this one's almost 200 grams heavier. And, you know, which one is actually wider? The guard on the Bowie is taller than the... It's taller than the profile of this blade. So, in many ways, yeah, this is a bigger knife. In every way, yeah. But all the weight is up here at the front. The edge length between the two is probably quite close, but the actual length of the blade on this one is much shorter. You can baton with something like this. Now, of course, you can baton with something like this too. I baton this one all the time, but it's very precise, careful batoning. So I think here we have a pretty decent, you know, comparison. So this is actually, you know, a lighter blade. It's a shorter blade. Technically, in one way, it's also a narrower blade than our control group. But it chops much more aggressively. It does a lot of the work, you know, much more aggressively. You can be more aggressive with it because it kind of takes the role of like a beater knife, a shank beater knife, but you got a really nice high quality edge on there, and really good steel, and you can carry it in unique ways, right? This is a 2-layer Kydex sheath, so you know that's definitely one of the perks of this design now. And if you really want to put your scales on there, you can, you know. I mean, most, especially in the US, a lot of guys are knife makers. A lot of guys have put scales on knives before. It's not a big deal. It's a pretty simple thing to do, especially if you've done it before. So I think in most cases, you know, having a blade like this, where you got the sheath, you got everything you need, and if you want to, you can just put freaking tape around the handle. And a lot of guys do that. A lot of guys, they go and get some blade from Nepal, they go and get some blade from someplace, you know, maybe it's a kukri, they love kukris, and then they take, it's like a mirror polish and everything, and they go and just wrap it up with hockey tape, and they etch the crap out of the blade, and they blue the living, you know, they do their own thing. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, when it comes to, it's like AR-15s and stuff, like, at the end of the day, most people, they need like a base model, and they like to be able to add stuff to it. So I'll be coming out with a solution. I'll be coming up with stuff, but I don't, you know, when it comes to doing the handle work, my goal with this is anyway going to always be that you have the option of having the skeletonized form. So, you know, I'm going to be, as I sell more of these, and as time goes on, I can invest back into the production, and the goal is to have a plastic injection handle here on one model. And of course, another one is that I have scales CNC'd, and then you order the scale separately, so you can have whatever scales you want, right, from the shop, right? There'd be like all sorts of different types, you know, maybe it's carbon fiber, maybe it's G10, and then you just screw them in, and then you got your scales, right? Maybe you glue and screw, or whatever. But you know, then, you know, you get the package, and then you get your scales, and then you just screw them in, some Loctite. Maybe you put some 30-minute epoxy in between, if you really want to. It helps, maybe, I don't know. And this here is to help you if you want to have a cord or a paracord wrap. You got a hole somewhere to put it. And the thing is, I've had to be very careful with where I put holes in this design, because each hole is a stress point on a piece of steel. So, but as time goes on, as the community builds around this design, we're gonna figure out where the holes gotta be. But this right here is where I've found it to be one of the best places to have it. So, but another option, of course, has been to not have a hole, but have an irregular spacing here, where there's actually like a triangular spacing rather than a hole, all the way from, you know, up in there and down around, so that there's actually sort of more options for where and how you can actually end up wrapping everything. So, if you're in terms of military utility camp knife, in terms of skinning, hunting, EDC, abuse, this is like a kind of go-to blade, and there's so many options for you to do what you want to do with it. So it chops better, if not as good, right, as your military blade. And I think I'll see you guys later. Somebody's calling me. But that was it. That's it. That's the video.